The Democratic Alliance in Gauteng has laid criminal charges against the former Chief Financial Officer for Gauteng Health Lerato Madyo. Now, the party says she failed to act on slain whistleblower Babita Diokaran's report of possible fraudulent transactions at the Tembisa Hospital. Diokaran was assassinated 2 weeks after raising the alarm on possible procurement irregularities to Madyo. Now, the DA has laid charges of negligence and financial misconduct against Madyo at the Johannesburg Central Police Station.
The DA says the former Chief Financial Accounting Officer Lerato Madyo betrayed Babita Diokaran. Therefore, she should face the full might of the law.
We have now laid charges against Ms. Lerato Madyo, who was the Chief Financial Officer that Babita Diokaran confided in and frankly was betrayed. And we feel that this is a key person of interest to be investigated. We've laid a total of 7 charges under the Prevention Combating Corrupt Activities Act, Section 34, failure to report it, which is a criminal offence.
Questioned on the timing of their lawsuit, the DA said they have been following this matter and the department's negligence came at a high price.
We have been calling for this department to be put under administration because we have seen time and time again the failures to spend money adequately, the return of money or overspending, and yet money doesn't really translate to anything tangible. People are still sleeping on floors. Children are still dying on a daily basis, because of negligence. Certain operations haven't been able to then be carried out because, dirty linen, unworking air conditioners, and so on and so forth. So we are saying you cannot continue to have so many billions that are wasted year in, year out, yet we don't see any improvement within the health sector, and yet people are allowed to carry on.
Msimanga says there is a possibility that the case could be transferred to the police headquarters.
We view this as a serious matter that must receive the utmost of attention. I mean, we're not talking about a peanut amount of money here. We're talking serious amounts of money, and therefore should receive, that particular level of interest. And therefore, we are told that this is going to be transferred, possibly from here to their national office as well.
The Democratic Alliance says they are laying these charges to ensure police urgently investigate the alleged serious crimes and offences committed by Lerato Madyo in this matter. They say they won't rest until all those implicated in the theft of more than 2 billion rand from Tembisa Hospital are charged and convicted in court. Calvin Rudla, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, the DA Gauteng Shadow Health MEC, Dr. Jack Bloom, joins us live this evening. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time. And also, thank you for bearing with us as we had breaking news this evening. Let's start with the significance of this particular move, given the fact that, there was a bit of silence, particularly when it comes to, the concerns that would have been raised by Babita Diokaran 2 weeks before she was gunned down to her boss. And we didn't see much movement on that part until now, when you are now laying these criminal charges.
Well, we think that Lerato Madyo, as the former Chief Financial Officer, has got off scot-free. There were 13 charges against her in the disciplinary matter. She was paid on full pay 3 million rand while she was suspended. And then she was allowed to resign shortly before the conclusion of her disciplinary after 2 years. They frankly delayed it that long, and she walked away with a 3 million rand payout as well as her pension. So we've decided to focus on her because, quite frankly, she wasn't doing her job. Babita Diokaran confided in her about what she viewed as billions of rand that was being misspent at the Tembisa Hospital. Lerato Madyo had promised that there would be a full audit, and she initially froze 104 million rand of these suspicious transactions, as Babita Diokaran had requested. But shortly after Babita was assassinated, Lerato Madyo just quietly released this 104 million rand, and she must have known that it was tainted. It should not have been released. And instead of doing a full-scale investigation, she just did a small sample audit and was covered up. In fact, we'd known nothing about this if it wasn't for the journalist Jeff Wicks, who got hold of Babita's laptop and her cell phone and spilled the beans, essentially. So the other aspect of Lerato Madyo is that who tipped off, malign people who actually murdered Babita Diokaran. She only told the CFO at the department, and maybe a very few other people would have known. So, Lerato Madyo is a key person here. Did she tip off the person who murdered Babita? We think that the police need to interrogate her thoroughly. We've made a number of relevant charges to assist them in this. And we think we can get closer to the big culprits, the masterminds, the kingpins, the ones who were ripping off the hospital budget to buy Ferraris and Lamborghinis.
So I'll circle back to that in just a moment, but I want to find out from you, do you know why her disciplinary hearing and processes were dragged for 2 years? Has there been any reason given?
Well, I think everything was dragged out because, in fact, there was a cover-up and she was protected. She had political protection. So, for 2 years, they paid her while she was suspended, and then they allowed her to resign. They should never have allowed her to resign. They should have concluded the disciplinary process and then laid criminal charges. But I would say she was deliberately allowed to get off very lightly, and that must come to an end. I think that the police need to investigate her role specifically, because if she had done her job, all this would have been stopped in its track. But she didn't do her job, and Babita Diokaran died. And according to the SIU's latest report, more than 2 billion rand in total has been stolen from poor people who should have been treated at Tembisa Hospital and got decent health care.
Where is she now? Do you know?
Well, she goes under another name, Daniela Malapo. We're not sure where she is, but that's the police's job to track her down. And they must get answers from her. She was a key person, and Babita trusted her. She was betrayed. And I'm sure she could give us a lot more information about, who actually hired the assassins for Babita Diokaran.
And looking at these allegations, of course, serious allegations, and also at the same time, you think about what the SIU was able to uncover as far as the money trail is concerned at the hospital. So we speak about the kingpins, but also at the same time, there was a concern being raised by the SIU around some of the officials when it comes to the department, some of the officials when it comes to supply chain, others in the hospital itself. One wonders, though, what about the system makes it so easy to corrupt?
Well, there were a lot of accomplices and bribes were offered, and people are rotten at the top. There was political protection. It was covered up. And I don't believe that what the Gauteng Health Department claims to have done now is going to clean up all the corruption. It's not just Tembisa Hospital. The other hospitals are rife with corruption. So you can have the best procedures in theory, that they should prevent corruption. But if you've got corrupt people, if you've got people who accept bribes, and if you have the top people like your chief financial officer covering things up, not doing her duty, then of course you're going to have more money stolen. So in fact, the DA is now calling for the dismissal of the Gauteng Health MEC. The health head of department has finally been suspended after we called for that for more than a year. But they need to do far, far more to clean out the rot in this department. There are lots of people involved. You couldn't have got away with such an extensive scam as this unless there were all sorts of players at every level.
Dr. Jack Bloom, thank you so much for talking to us this evening. That is the DA's Shadow Health MEC, Dr. Jack Bloom, joining us, of course, looking at the developments there as far as the laying of criminal charges against Lerato Madyo is concerned. And, of course, this is a story that continues to develop, and we'll circle back to it as the developments keep coming.